Video editing is one of the most popular jobs for people nowadays who want to work for themselves. I mean, you look on YouTube and you see people like Hayden Hillier Smith making hundreds of thousands per year, and even people on Twitter who claim to be making $10,000 a month. I mean, who wouldn't want a bit of that? And although I haven't exactly got to that level, I have been able to work with creators with over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and I've helped generate over 5 million views across all platforms. So in this video, I'm going to go over what I've learned in my 2.5 years of video editing, and what I do differently if I had to start over in 2026. So first off, when you start your editing journey, you might think that, oh, I'm going to be able to work with these big creators straight away and I'm going to be making loads of money. And it's easy to fall into that trap when you see what people are posting online. I know I certainly did in the beginning. But sadly, that probably isn't going to be the case for you. When I first started editing, I got pretty lucky with managing to land a client within 2 to 3 weeks. And they were paying a pretty good price as well, to be fair. But unfortunately, it didn't last very long because I didn't really have the experience to be doing this job. I just, like I said, I got pretty lucky, I think. And then after that, we just like stopped working together after a couple of weeks, which, you know, completely tore apart my income. And then after that, I kind of fell into this slump where I was just reaching out to people, reaching out, and I was expecting these same prices that I'd originally got, but I just wasn't having any luck. I mean, no one wanted to work with me pretty much. And then I came to this realization that, to be honest, I wasn't really good enough. I mean, I just didn't have the skill that was required to work with these big creators. And of course, creators with hundreds of thousands or even millions of subscribers have huge expectations. I mean, you think of the pressure that the audience has to put on them, and the editing is such a huge part of that they can't risk, giving you the work, even if your prices are good, and then their video is completely messed up because they don't know what you're going to be like long term. So once I come to terms with that I wasn't good enough, only then was I really able to hone in my skills and really focus on actually getting better at editing. And that's when I finally started to be able to work with creators. And that wasn't exactly smooth sailing though, because at the beginning I basically had to work for free. I mean, I did do work for free. And then I basically just slowly increased my income by, starting with a very small fee and then just slowly built my way up, which is, of course, not what you'd expect to see based on, what people tell you online. So, based on my experience, I would say to just go into editing and just think of it as a learning process and don't expect anything out of it. Because the chances are, unless you're very talented or have done something similar in the past, you're probably going to suck at editing for at least 6 months to a year. And I mean, it sounds harsh, but when you put that into perspective, it really keeps you motivated and makes you want to continue learning, because it's easy to get into this mindset of thinking it's going to work out really quickly, and then when it doesn't work out, you're basically just going to want to quit because, your expectations aren't aligned with what actually happened. So, just the surest way to basically fail at editing is to quit before you ever get to that point of improving. So, just stick at it. Now, you have the right expectations, but where do you start? Well, first things first, you're going to want to get a mentor or just learn from someone. And how I learned personally, wait for it, I learned from Andrew Tate's TRW program. They had a editing campus in there. I know, right? Andrew Tate, unbelievable. But yeah, I didn't learn much in terms of real editing, you know, the emotions and psychology behind editing. But I did learn a lot about the technical side of it. You know, when you first open something like Premiere, there's a lot of moving parts to it, and to actually navigate it fluently, you really need to learn from someone just to know you okay, I need to go up here and then I press this and then to drop down and then I press that. Or where do I find the effects? You know, audio effects, anything like that. You do kind of need to learn from someone. So I would say you need at least some kind of mentorship. I mean, nowadays, honestly, there's a lot of good courses and mentors out there. I mean, in recent months, personally, I've been learning from Josh from the Elite Editor Academy. Shout out to Josh. He's really helped me out. But, you know, there's a lot of good courses out there. Like I said, there's some from Hayden Hillier Smith, who's worked with, you know, Logan Paul for years. So he's learned a lot from him. Well, and he's even worked with Mr. Beast, you know, Michelle Khare, a lot of creators. But there's also loads on School now with, you know, a lot of positive reviews. So I think the key here really is to just pick something and give it consistent effort, because you can kind of keep researching and trying to find this perfect mentor, this perfect course that's going to give you some editing secret that isn't already out there, but it doesn't exist. So, like I said, just keep putting that effort in with whoever's trying to teach you or whoever you want to learn from, and you'll eventually start getting results. Then, to supplement that, you can also read a lot of books on editing, like In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Merck, Save the Cat, Steal Like an Artist. You know, they are probably my favourite ones. But just things like that, and of course, watching a lot of films and series, because there's no one better to learn from than Hollywood level editors themselves. And you may be thinking, wait, how does that tie into YouTube editing? But actually, it has a lot to do with YouTube editing, because the whole psychology and how human emotion works, it's all the same. It's not going to be different just because you're watching it on YouTube or you're watching it on Netflix or in a cinema. It's all the same. So just watching a lot of those and just being able to absorb that information really helps you out, because, you know, those editors are getting paid a shitload of money and they're doing an excellent job. And I mean, why wouldn't you want to copy them? And if you still are on the fence of, well, how does film editing tie into YouTube editing? Just look at the team that Mr. Beast has behind him. If you know anything about his production team, he has loads of editors working for him, because editing is not just, oh, I just plonk the footage into Premiere and I just cut a few things and then boom, done, export. No, it's not that simple. You got VFX, music, sound design, pacing, rough cutting. There's a lot of parts to it. So that's why people will pay you a lot of money to take that stress away from them as a creator. What I quickly realized though was that even if you're a decent editor, you can still end up with no clients, because there's one skill in particular that you really need. Otherwise, you're just going to end up chasing clients through outreach, no one's replying to you, you're posting content, no one views it, and basically just swimming against the current. And that skill is client acquisition, because it doesn't matter how much skill you have, if you don't know how to sell yourself, then no one's going to be interested. That's why you also need a mentor who can teach you the client acquisition side of things, not just cool visual effects, because otherwise you just end up another one of those editors who's on Fiverr getting $5 an hour and they're basically on a price race to the bottom. I've also found several books to be helpful with this client acquisition side of things as well, which include Influence, Get Into Yes, Yes, and what was the last one? Never Split the Difference. They are behind me too. But yeah, basically these sort of made me realize that understanding human emotion, you know, why people buy things, the psychology behind just making them see why your solution is the right answer to them is so, so important. And it almost makes you think like, gosh, you know, if I understood all this shit, I mean, I could probably sell a bag of dirt to someone for $50. I mean, it sounds like, that sounds very scammy. I don't mean that. Don't do that. But I'm basically saying that's how powerful it can be. And obviously, this is why you got snake oil salesmen who end up ripping people off, because they know all these skills and they use them to the negative. But of course, you as the editor want to use this for the positive and genuinely provide, you know, a good solution with your editing work. And then one thing that probably not a lot of editing gurus mention is that one of the most powerful things you can have at your disposal for future clients is your client relationships that you've had with your current clients or past clients. Because you won't believe how powerful that social proof is of that client you're either working with or have worked with referring you to another client or creator. It's basically like your entire sales pitch is just like, boom, done. Because, I mean, if you've already been giving it 100% effort for these creators you've been working with, then they have no reason not to give you praise to this other creator, because you've already been doing such a good job. And that's why it's so important to basically just keep continually building yourself up and building these relationships. You know, you don't want to ever cut ties with people really, unless, you know, you think they're a terrible person, which is fair enough. But yeah, just that build up of client relationships really gets you to a point where basically you just get work by accident. So once you've started on this path of improving your client acquisition skills and improving your video editing skills, you want to make sure that you don't divert off this path. And you might be thinking, well, of course, why would I do that? Well, when moments are going to get tough, which they are, and there's going to be times you do think about quitting. I know I had a lot of moments like that, especially when, you know, you're looking at your income and it's nowhere near where you want it to be. And you might be looking on Instagram or something and you're seeing this thumbnail designer you're following. He's making 5k a month, he's saying, and he's got this nice lifestyle. You know, he's making posts about being on a cruise or holiday, and you're just thinking, oh man, I'm only making $1,000 a month myself doing video editing. Maybe, you know, I can make this graphic design stuff work. You don't want to do that, because if you do that and you jump skills, then you're basically just going to reset all your progress and you're going to end up just not progressing in any subject, because the chances are, if you've done it with video editing, you're going to carry it on to wherever you've jumped to, and then the next thing and the next thing, and you basically just never master anything because you just kept jumping. And, you know, before you start video editing, you really just want to ask yourself, am I willing to put up with the highs and lows, you know? However, if you do stick with editing, you can still completely mess things up and your ability to master it. How? Well, you can end up jumping through different niches, different formats, posting content on all different kinds of platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and you're trying to grow following on this and that. What you really need to do is to just pick one niche, something you're interested in, whether that's fitness or tech reviews, which I've done a lot of recently. And then one format, ideally. So that could be like documentary format or short form or long form. it really just depends on what you're interested in most. Like I said, I personally do a lot of tech reviews, which tends to be long form, or I do also do a bit of short form, but like generally speaking, what I enjoy to do is more story focused videos, whereas less just talking to a screen and adding like really simple graphics or animations and things like that. I'd rather just have a video that has a story. Even something as simple as a tech review, I find has a story because you start at the point before the box has been opened and then you slowly progress through it as kind of like a story. So realistically, you just want to keep to a theme and stick by it. Like, you may really like editing animations and VFX, and that might be your thing. And if you do enjoy that, you just gotta stick more so to that, rather than think, oh, I'm gonna do a little bit of animations, and then I'm gonna do some vlogs, and then I'm gonna do TikTok videos for this guy, and you just end up confusing things too much at the start. So I think, I'm not saying you can't have these skills, because obviously I can edit different formats, I can edit vlogs, I can edit short form, but it's not what I focused on in the beginning, because I find that would have just been too complicated for me. I needed to kind of stick to something I was sort of interested in, try and master that to a degree, and then think about expanding more, because that way you just make things a lot easier on yourself. Because like at my skill level now, if I try and learn a new format, it's a lot easier for me compared to someone who's, say, just starting out and they don't even understand how to navigate Premiere at the minute. I mean, it doesn't make sense for them to do that. So yeah, at the beginning, pick a niche, stick to it, and you'll see results, I believe, a lot quicker that way. You could use an example of like fitness, right? Say you want to be exceptional at fitness, but one day a week you end up doing CrossFit, and then on a Wednesday then you're doing weightlifting, and then on Thursday you're doing running. You're never going to be exceptional at any of them, like running, CrossFit, or weightlifting, because you're doing too many things. You can't master a bunch of things when you're doing them all at the same time, It's better to just focus your energy on one at a time and think, I either want to focus on building this thing at the moment, and then I've mastered that to a good level. Then I think, right, now I want to learn a bit about how to edit a vlog, so I'm going to sort of put a bit more energy into that now. But you've already mastered maybe short form. So doing it like that just is a better use of your energy overall. You can experiment, of course, and I'm obviously not saying not to experiment with different types of content. We are creative people at the end of the day, especially us editors, but of course you can't expect to master everything at the same time. And if you're able to put together all these things I've mentioned, you're able to work hard consistently over long periods of time, you don't divert from that, then you're really on the track to making a lot of money from video editing. Now, if you'd like to work with me, I do have space for one more creator to work with. So if you're interested, you can drop me an email, which is jacob@hurlsediting.com.